Welcome to today's episode. It is Friday, April 3rd, and you're listening to the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. The series we're talking about today was released last week, March 26th, on Netflix. It is the first of the Duffer Brothers projects post Stranger Things, though notably, they are only credited as executive producers. Netflix is no stranger to horror. They've had the Haunting series, Fall of the House of Usher, Midnight Mass, those are all Mike Flanagan series. Archive 81, which was short-lived, but people seem to like it. Cabinet of Curiosities, the Guillermo del Toro shorts.
That was like back in 2022.
However, with the growth of companies like A24, Blumhouse, Monkey Paw, it's as if Netflix can't keep up. Also, the mainstream financial and critical success of modern films like Weapons, Sinners, which both brought home Oscars 28 years later, the fact that Mike Flanagan has now moved on to Amazon Prime, the Duffer Brothers are set to move on to Paramount Plus. Netflix has sensed that something very bad was going to happen and hence made a series with that same title. Now, I watched all 8 episodes. You've watched a lot of the 8 episodes. I have some alternative titles I think that may have been more appropriate or at least could have been considered for the show. Do you want to hear what they are?
Go ahead.
Okay, the first one is How to Lose a Guy in 7 Days. Is that fair?
That's
She
not
has
too
a
bad.
week to get married, and by the end of it, things do not go as planned. Okay, Stranger Things 26, Red Wedding.
Red Wedding?
You know how
There's
Stranger Things 80, 85 or whatever?
Yeah,
it's
that's coming out
87, I don't know.
in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. But that's going to be a cartoon. They could have cartooned this series, and it's definitely a Red Wedding. I'm
But
sure
there's no 11 this time.
Millie Bobby Brown could have been brought aboard, I'm sure, with enough money. How about this? The Menu 2. Think about the endings.
None of these have any people from the
That has nothing to do with it.
There,
You don't
but
need
there's
Matthew
no,
McConaughey
But the
to show
menu
up.
was all about food. There's not really that much.
But how does
food.
it end? And how did this end?
Well, an
Similar,
explosion,
right?
Yeah.
All right. Marriage at a Funeral.
That seems like it's too much of a comedy. This is not supposed to be a comedy.
I disagree with you, and we'll get into that. But how about this one? The Haunting of Buffalo Bill.
Right, because he's supposed to make an appearance.
What do you mean he's supposed to make?
He's the dad.
Plays
Right.
Buffalo Bill.
Boris, I know.
From, what was it? Hamilton.
And you were able to tell that was him when you saw him on screen.
Yeah, because his voice is so well known, and he's skinning animals in this, and he's and he's known to be skinning people in the other film. And so and then also Meet the Cunninghams.
Meet the Fosters ripoff.
Fockers? It's kind of like that. Cunningham is a very interesting name to have chosen. It's part of the reason why I think this is a comedy. It's because Happy Days, the whole Cunningham family that was like Richie and the dad and oh man, I don't remember the mom's name. And then there was the brother that like never showed up again. But
yeah, he was trying to find the basketball.
Yes, he was in the first season. This is an atypical horror show. I will say that.
Yeah, no, even when Haley Z. Boston, this is the show that she created, it's also her first show she created, she said that it was so unorthodox that she was unsure how to pitch it when she pitched it to several streamers.
Right. To me, I would almost say it's kind of like Scary Movie or Cabin in the Woods. Not as funny, but it doesn't get bogged down in one central monster. It's flirting with all these different horror avenues. And as we peel back the mystery, it's revealed that 80% of the weird shit that happens doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's not like Lost. I want to make an important distinction. It's not like Lost or From, where when I say it, or Skidmarink, where when I say it doesn't matter, it's just like they don't even answer. They're actually giving you straight, explicit answers for the questions, and they're giving you it in a timely manner. If something very bad is going to happen, deserves credit for one thing, it's that it brings receipts to those answers. And so, I want to talk about the setup for the show, the cast, the characters, the major pivots, the ultimate conclusion, ending thoughts, reception and rating. Anything else that we should talk about?
I feel like this is a show that is so much about the finale, though.
Yes.
That's really what this show was made for. I think you don't have this type of finale, this show probably wouldn't have been made.
Okay. I mean, I do think that the process of getting there, every single episode seemed like it was geared at pointing at some point in horror and saying, like even the 7th episode with the extended long shot, like it's obviously...
Yeah, the oneer, right.
Yes. Or like the jump scares in certain episodes or the backflash episode. Like I felt like there were purpose. It wasn't just all about the finale.
Before we get into it, is this show worth sticking around for? Because originally we were only going to review the pilot. Are you glad that you saw saw the full
The
season.
reason we didn't just stick with the pilot was you could tell that that really didn't get into the main cast. Like,
Mhm.
we really didn't even meet the family, the Cunninghams, by the end of the first episode. It was like its own individual one-off.
Originally, when Haley Z. Boston wrote this show, she's only had 3 credits to her name: the Lotion episode in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet Curiosities. She did TV
Kate Micucci,
series. Yeah, and then she's done a TV series, brand new Cherry Flavor. Even worked on season 2 of Hunters, but that was Amazon Prime. But
where
she
Mike Flanagan's off to, yes.
Right. But she was saying how the pilot that she pitched was so different from the first episode that we ended up getting. You weren't even supposed to meet the
Did they
family.
wing it? Is part of the reason why there's just so much crazy shit happening is because they just didn't know which one and they kind of just ended up where they ended? Like, I
They
doubt that that's the case, but it does sound like a show that kind of like went with where it was feeling the vibes of it.
You were only supposed to be introduced to Rachel and Nicky in the pilot. It was just supposed to be them two, and then they
You kind of
decided
were.
that, yeah, and then but you also get the
You
family in
get
the
the
first
witness who
episode.
shows up, you get
Yeah.
the bartender, you get the baby. At the very end, you meet Victoria, and she's like, I'm not going to see you very much. And then we see a ton of her. So that made no sense. But here's the premise for the show it's kind of like Get Out, it's kind of like Ready or Not, where you have a woman who's going to meet her fiance's family for the first time, but the added pressure is there because they're about to get married. It wasn't
Yeah.
like that in Get Out or Ready or Not, right? So I'll go through the characters and you tell me who played them, and then we'll discuss that a little
Yeah,
bit, okay?
sure.
So the main character we've got is Rachel Harkins. It's quite a horror name for you, kind of like Agatha Harkness, or she's hearkening evil. Who plays Rachel Harkins?
Camilla Morone. She
Yes.
was in Daisy Jones and the Six. She even got an Emmy nomination for that, and she was
Mhm.
also in The Night Manager season 2.
Yes, that's where I most recently would have seen her. She plays like the replacement main female lead in that series. And
Roxana, yeah.
yeah, she's a bit of a flirt where she's like hanging out with the bad guy, hanging out with the main character. You're not sure where her allegiance lies. In this, it's much more plain to see that like we are following through her eyes, I guess. And so we are rooting for her the most. And so we have her. She's meeting the Cunningham family. You've got Nicky, her fiance, seems like a nice dude. However, he doesn't instantly believe everything that she's telling him when she feels like she's unnerved by what's going on. You've got Jewel. Oh, sorry.
Played by Adam DeMarco. He's an executive producer for this. He was also in The Magicians and The White Lotus season 2. He described the show as kind of a horror White Lotus or a horror Succession.
He looks a little bit like a magician in the series. I think it's the mustache. Then you have Jules, who's his sarcastic older brother, comes off super rude at the very beginning,
Yeah.
insisting that Rachel call him doctor, just like their dad. But then
Yeah.
as time goes along, him and his wife in the series, Nell, I just want to say, like, and not to be confused from Nell from Haunting of Hill House, but that felt like that was a direct correlation
Yes.
given that she's in the series playing the mom.
Talking about Victoria Pedretti, yeah.
That's so weird. And there's another Victoria in this series too. But yeah, Jules and Nell, you're not supposed to like them as a couple at first, and then they're supposed to grow on you.
With Jules, he was in Park Chan-wook's The Little Drummer Girl, but also what I find so interesting about him is that he knows 5 languages, like the actual person: English, Dutch, German, Hebrew, and Yiddish. Jeff Wilbush.
Okay, so I'm assuming he's Jewish then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, he was in Unorthodox, kind of that Jewish series in
And
2020.
Nell I did recognize as the lady from Misfits,
Jess from Misfits,
like
yes.
season 4, season 5.
She was also, the last show she was in was Lazarus, which is another Sam Claflin kind of connection.
Wait, and she is recognizable, but her hair is quite different, so it does take a second. I always get her confused with the lady from Utopia, who's also, I believe, British. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Okay, and then you have Portia, who's the high-strung younger sister Cunningham.
Right,
And
I felt like they were trying to make her kind of like, you were supposed to think that she was really evil at first.
she's like they do that with every character, but she's like Portia from Search Party, where she's just so self-absorbed
Yeah.
that it's almost like they want you to root for her death. You know? She's
Yeah,
so anti or antagonistic to Rachel.
I was wondering if you recognized her from Black Rabbit. She was also in Shining Vale. Gus Burney, that's her name.
I did not. I recognized her as every other cliche high-strung blonde that they stick in a series to have that really high-pitched voice. And then you have Boris. He plays the dad. We talked about him already. The guy from Hannibal, and he
Silence of the Lambs, yeah, Buffalo Bill.
yes. And I mostly know him from Monk. He was the captain in Monk, and he was pretty cool in that. And
Ted
then
Levine. Yeah.
Victoria from Everything, but what's her? Not Guillermo del
Jennifer
Toro,
Jason.
but Quentin Tarantino's movie most recently, right?
Well, actually, most
Hateful
recently,
Eight or whatever.
yeah, in terms of movies, but Fargo season 5 and High Potential is what she's been in TV show wise.
Right. And so she is the matriarch of the family. She also has a brain tumor in her head. And so Boris is trying to like deal with that. And so is the rest of the family. Nicky is the only one in that group who doesn't know about it. And let's just zoom through these episodes
Well,
real quick.
I wanted
Yeah.
to talk because I feel like Netflix was trying to make this a sleeper hit. We've already mentioned the Duffer Brothers creators, Stranger Things executive producers, but then you have someone who directed half of Baby Reindeer. That's someone who's directed half of this TV show here.
Isn't Baby Reindeer coming back? Like there's a sequel series?
Richard Gadd is making a series for HBO at the end of the month.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just saying that Baby Reindeer was huge for Netflix, and that you also have Stranger Things here, and then you also even have.
Well, you're saying that the director came in to film that and the thing that Baby Reindeer had for it with direction was that it could make you cringe
right.
quite a lot. And so I did get a little bit of that here. However, I think I was more by the end laughing than I was truly freaked out about anything.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So can I go into the
Yeah.
episodes now? Episode 1 feels like it was just the journey episode, getting into town. Everybody's a little spooked. They run into an abandoned baby and they try to figure out where its parents are. That's where Rachel meets the witness and or just this creepy dude who's looking at her. And they both make it to this cabin in the woods where the family's hanging out. And they're like, welcome to the family. And that's where kind of the first episode cuts off.
Never get on one knee. Yep.
Episode 2, Rachel's wedding dress is like the big fiasco situation because she brought it with her, but then it goes missing. And it feels like the Cunninghams are just intent on making her wear this passed down wedding dress.
Nicky even goes back for it, right? And then he's not able to make it back
Yes,
to the
that
place.
was like the first instance where Nicky really isn't listening to Rachel. He's more just wanting to make the perfect wedding. So he's gotten in his head that she has to have misplaced this thing, even though she's telling him it's someone's taken it, right? And so he goes off. Rachel starts freaking out because she feels like the Cunninghams are trying to either kill her or like put their grandmother's spirit into her body. That's what it's hinted at because they keep on talking about how like she would have wanted it a certain way. And then at the end, it's revealed that yes, the mom has this brain tumor and really that they're all depressed because of that. However, they're trying to make up for the fact that this is going to be such a tragedy by having this nice wedding. And so Rachel spends the third episode apologizing and trying to make her wedding the best it could possibly be. She brings in a cake that says, I'm sorry.
Right.
She also runs a grief therapy session that ends in a very strange manner where she brings in the wedding dress, which she's found, her old wedding dress. And it would be the kid, Jude, who we didn't mention, had actually strung it up in a tree, and they kind of pray to that on the mom's behalf and send good condolence messages. It's such a strange ending in episode 3, and then it never comes back into play.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of, you could say that with a lot of plots in this show, but Jude, he had my biggest jump scare, like the biggest scare for me, because it had
The sorry man.
Yeah, when he's underneath and he's taking pictures of everything because he's playing around with his new camera. That was so much, I said at the time, so much like the 2022 short that's animated, The Kid in the Camera, down to him being in a secret room taking pictures and there being a man right there.
Except he wasn't taking pictures, he was filming, and he was just scrolling if you've seen it from Insidious to every other horror movie,
VHS,
but you were just waiting for the thing to pop out, and there was a guy, and then Jude decides not to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Even though he has footage on a camera that shows that there is a man in their basement, he then lets that man just go about what he wants to do and kidnap Rachel. However, in the 4th episode, it's all explained, which is nice. This is like the VHS backflash episode where we learn about Rachel's parents. The big reveal is that her whole family has been under this curse where if someone accepts a proposal and then marries a person who is not their true soulmate, which is determined by the devil, they die on their wedding night.
Yeah, and that was, I know you already mentioned it, but the most ready or not for me that it got, because it was like,
True.
Okay, that's when people start, exploding and everything.
They've made a deal with the devil or a
Yes.
demon, yes. If they refuse to marry, like they've taken the proposal, they've said yes, but then they get to the stand and they're like, I don't want to die. I don't believe that you're my soulmate. If they refuse refuse. The curse then spreads to the family that they are about to marry, the other family, right?
Yeah.
Killing every blood relative who is not actually who's not actually married to their soulmate.
I thought that in terms of like aesthetic or just how unique an episode was, I thought that prior to the finale was the most unique
I
episode,
thought
the
it was the
best
best
one.
episode
Yeah.
because not only did you get to see Nell from Haunting of Hill House, and does it explain a lot, and it also explains who the sorry man is, but it also throws in the guy who played Death from Supernatural
Supernatural, yeah.
being his creepy self as an ice cream attendant. I would watch like a 20-minute short with that guy.
He's always fantastic in everything he's in.
He's sensational when he plays an evil death-like character.
Right.
So this all when Rachel learns about it, finds out that her dad's actually the one who kidnapped her just to divulge this information. Part of the reason he's been such a horrible father is because of this information. And he's made a point of telling her now. This gives her a reason to smoke the entire series because she is just on edge from now on out. She returns not 100% gung ho on dumping because she realizes like she doesn't want to now curse the other family,
Right.
but at the same time, does she believe that Nicky is her true soulmate? She convinces herself as much. And then episode 5 happens. There's a rehearsal dinner happening, and she's going around meeting his entire family. They've invited way more people than she was
It was
expecting.
like supposed to be, I think it's 100 people or over 100 people.
About 100 people, yeah. But the thing that kind of is strange about it is that she gets very comfortable telling the story of how Nicky and her met
We
at an
see her tell
airport.
it multiple times, yes.
Now, if you've been to a rehearsal dinner, you do need to socialize. But saying the same one story, it feels like they must have a lot of stories about their relationship. But this one, she not only tells to everyone, she sometimes tells to the same people twice.
Yeah,
And they are
they're in the same group,
so
yeah.
into it, they ask her about the details over and over and over again. I mean, that's another point where I'm just like, this has to be a comedy.
Yeah.
That's insane. Why would anybody do that? Turns out the story is a little bit of a bullshit story. Turns out Nicky actually wasn't due on the same flight that she was so freaked out about taking Final Destination wise. She ends up driving where she needs to go and he volunteers to take her. But it was actually that he was just hanging out in the airport, having just been dumped himself. And he was looking and he found a girl that was like kind of in a perilous situation. And he decided to hang out with her.
Talk about cringe inducing when the brother Jules just starts selling him out, specifically at the end of the episode when he's like, I'm just trying to ask questions here. And it becomes glaringly obvious to Rachel that, like, yeah, Nicky, that story was kind of false. It was very cringeworthy.
I think
Yeah.
by episode 4, though, we're supposed to be on Jules' side. We're supposed to be on the sarcastic brother's side because he's not pointing out the flaw in the series or in the series of events that led to them getting together just to be an asshole. He's doing it because he knows that the curse is for real
Right.
and that if she marries the brother under these false circumstances and they aren't truthful with one another, then like things are going to go awry and like people are going to die. And so I think he's poking holes in the story for that purpose. He says as much later
Right.
on. And then in episode 6, Rachel has now had her faith shaken in the relationship with Nicky because she's come out and she said, I'm going to die if I marry you and you're not my soulmate. And he doesn't believe her. Why doesn't anybody show him the tape? Or
That would have saved a lot of stuff. Yeah.
or like there's so many times where Nicky is kind of left in the dark where I get that it's easy to rag on the dude for just kind of being oblivious. But they do baby him and they don't show him how critical or sinister this thing could be. Like
I know that's jumping ahead, but I
Yeah.
think that episode 7, when Nicky makes it clear that he doesn't believe in the curse, I
Yes.
think that was supposed to be the reason for that.
But it's also part of the reason why everybody who's watching the series is like, "Are you kidding me? Haven't you seen all the shit that's gone down?" Like it's a fact for this reality. But the problem is he hasn't seen most of the stuff that goes down. He was busy on a hunting trip with his dad being told that his mom once cheated on his dad. And for some reason
That was
that
supposed to be
rocks
huge,
his
yeah.
entire like I have a theory as to why that rocks his world, but it does seem insane that like being told that your parents, one of them cheated on the other 30 years ago, now makes it so that you don't want to marry the girl of your dreams. You know, that's so weird. Episode 6 rolls along. and Rachel is having doubts. She goes to the county like office where they keep all the marriage certificates and the backlogs, and she's able to find out that her entire family, like all her distant relatives, got married there in that town, and the majority of them died the night that they got married, right?
Yes.
And so she tracks it down to like one family that didn't in like 1900, her great 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 grandma or something, and she decides by the end of the episodes to have a summoning during her bachelorette party. And
It was so strangely, I felt like, thrown in there. Like,
yeah,
that's not something
this
that
is
you
the
do.
one time where Portia actually helps out,
Right.
and she helps the summoning happen, actually becomes possessed herself, and explains, though this happens off screen, that Rachel, if she wants to become the soulmate of Nicky's dreams, has to create this concoction, which includes his seed, the mom's hair, something from Portia, I think it's her blood, and then a bone of Rachel's body, and she mixes it in like a champagne glass,
Oh,
and she
so
needs to drink it.
disgusting.
So in
Yeah.
episode 7, she's preparing this concoction.
This is the one-shot episode.
Yes,
Yeah.
and people are arriving for the actual wedding because it's that day, and she's left at the end of the episode having created this
Oh,
gross
no,
drink.
but I have to talk about this pinky toe scene because it was very much,
Yeah, I was gonna say that for my thoughts afterwards, but go ahead.
it was the part that I had to look away at. That was the part where I genuinely couldn't watch because they spent so long on it, and it wasn't just like a snap off like it was in Prison Break. It was like you saw them sawing into it, you saw her biting on the belt, the sounds they were making. I genuinely couldn't watch it. I
Yeah,
only heard.
Nell has become Rachel's best friend by now.
Yeah.
And then she loops in Jules, since Jules is a doctor, to help perform this surgery. And if you've seen any sort of Japanese horror, this is a complete homage to that, where they actually get a little into the grotesque.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, they cut off that pinky toe. Now, this is the part that I wanted to save a little bit for later, but why in God's name did they not go with the tooth? Like, Jules straight out says, you could just pull out one of your teeth. And then Nell nixes that idea instantly, being like, it's her wedding day. She can't have a missing tooth.
This
Even
was
though you
yes.
can easily go to a dentist, hockey players do this all the time, and have a tooth fixed or another replacement put in if they just pulled out a molar in the back. But they're concerned that she's going to have a toothache over the fact that she's losing her pinky
This
toe.
is
And you're expecting me to believe that this is not a comedy?
100% because they realized that doing the pinky toe was going to be more effective watching it. Like, this was a writer's thing where they were like, oh, it's going to be way cooler and way more like way worse if we go with pinky toe than just a tooth.
It would have made more sense if in the book that she was going off of, which she collects off screen, but then we suddenly see her with this book of soulmate like practices or whatever, that tooths aren't allowed. Like, there's a little exception thing that tooths don't count. But yeah, no, she loses her pinky toe and she's staring at this thing and she's fully committed. And then at the very last second, she gets cold feet. And the last episode, the red wedding happens.
Nice pun, by the way. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's not really a pun. What are you talking about?
Pinky toe, feet.
Yes. No, I thought you were talking about the red wedding. Oh, okay. So yeah, the last episode I think is actually called I Do, right?
Yep.
And Rachel has this plan to drink the elixir. She goes up and then she realizes that she isn't going to risk it. She actually thinks Nicky is her soulmate. She convinces herself of that. She gets up to the stand and then Nicky decides that he's going to have that existential crisis. He says no to her right before sunset, and if they don't get married before sunset, then the other family, his family, is going to be cursed. So that's exactly what happens. Everybody dies screaming on the dance floor. Now, we can talk a little bit more about the specifics, but I do want to get into why I don't want to fully blame Nicky for everything bad that happens.
I
Right?
mean, he is the reason for it.
But he's also given these unfair expectations this whole time. So, like, everyone keeps calling him pure and awesome and perfect, like his family does. Even Rachel does at certain points. But we never see him as anything other than just nice. You know, he's a nice dude, but why is he being treated like he is God's gift to humanity? No one knows. Was it just bad writing? Because, like I said, they could have shown him the fucking video. They could have introduced him to the witness, the immortal guy who is literally right there in the audience.
Yeah.
She could have been like, here, you don't believe me? talk to this guy.
Which,
He
by the
was
way, yeah,
not lying to anybody about anything. He would have straight up told him the same information, and that at least would have, I think, rocked Nicky's boat a little
I was
bit.
so glad that they cast Latko Burick in the witness role. His rise in the U.S. has kind of been meteoric, but yeah, no, I agree. They could have just been like, this guy will tell you everything you need to know.
He's been in like a ton of superhero shows, right?
Yeah,
Or
Wonder
movies.
Man. He was also in the Superman movie.
Yes. And so what doesn't make sense though is the existential crisis. Why that hunting trip meant so much to him that like the day that he figures out that his mom cheated, he went to her and basically causes her to have like a stroke in the bed because she's like, I can't marry blah 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 Rachel anymore because I don't believe
Yep.
in marriage sanctity or whatever. And he's a grown ass man, right? And he's had plenty of breakups because they've even talked about his breakups. Jules was like, you dated blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So he knows that relationships go through their like ups and downs. But somehow, like this one little fact is enough to completely derail things. That's what feels like just bad writing, not bad character. And the only way it makes sense, and I think there is evidence to this, one of the few people who survive the whole onslaught,
Right.
who is married, because that's a very important thing, is that it goes after the people who are married and not soulmates, right?
Yeah.
Is Boris. And Boris, though married to the wife, may not be Nicky's father.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe,
Right.
maybe what Nicky realized when he heard that the wife cheated was that I have not known my dad for my entire life. This man is an imposter. I don't know who I am as a person. That would at least give a little bit more rationality to why he acted as he did. And I think give people a little bit more pause into just assuming that this guy decided to break up his marriage out of absolutely nothing. If you find out the day that you're about to get married that you're adopted or that, like, you don't know one of your parents,
Yep.
that does feel like it's a little bit more legitimate.
What about Jules and Nell? Because they make it to the end as
Okay, so
well.
yeah. The other question is like, how are so many people who get married? Because like that's everybody, like what 90% of the people who are at
I'd say it's
the
like
wedding
95%. Yeah.
are married and are Cunninghams, and so like at least 50% of them are dying on the floor. And the question is, are really all of them not soulmates? Like no one was lucky enough to find them. The only people that we are told are soulmates are the two who were about to get divorced, Jules and Nell. And it was the equivalent of kind of like Jonathan and Nancy, because by this point they kind of hate each other, and they have this one weird scene at the bathtub, where they're kind of like back and forth and she's like pushing him down into the tub,
Right.
trying to like fake kill him. That's what we're supposed to lead to believe or be led to believe that they are like the perfect set duo.
Especially by the end when they're in that room and
She
they're
was
talking
making out
about
with
it.
Rachel like the episode
Yeah.
beforehand, and they're soulmates. I mean, I get that they like each other still, but saying that they are over everybody else in that room, the two people who are actually meant to be together, it doesn't feel like the rules are very well like set up for that explanation.
However, the finale reminded me of so much. The Curse, the Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone
Yes.
show, because it takes until the finale of that series for the actual curse to take effect. The Substance with the amount of blood also together you can throw in there. Taxi Driver, the final scene. Strangely enough, the Odyssey.
Together or togetherness?
I think it's together.
Okay.
But the Odyssey, which is book 22, Slaughter in the Hall, the chapter where Odysseus kills everyone, I thought that when they were doing the tracking shot of the blood throughout the mansion, that kind of reminded me of that as well.
And then having Jude just having to see all the blood smearing, stuff like that.
It
Like
had
the little kid there, yeah.
It had the biggest thanks I hate it moment when Rachel, she goes into that separate room which had like all the snow in it, which was supposed to be an homage to Kill Bill Volume 1.
Huh.
But like the like death there that she gives for like 30 seconds, which was so creepy. I thought that was very, very effective right before she falls.
Some people, there was like a pause in between. It's kind of like with a zombie virus where some people turn almost immediately and other people it takes the second he put the ring on her finger. So Nikki's like, I can undo this. I can undo
Yeah.
this. And so he goes through this whole thing. Let's talk about how Nikki even survived. But like he puts the ring on her finger and she instantly just starts pouring gushing from the
Yeah.
nose and stuff like that. And then walks into that area that had the ceiling removed and dies right in the middle there. So the real question, though, that you leave the series, because she comes back to life. She replaces the witness as the new witness since
Right.
she tried to walk away from the Cunninghams thing just as the witness had. That makes sense. But how did Nicky survive? So Nicky was the first one to walk away, but he does this before he's even part of the curse because his family is still safe until sunset, right?
Yeah.
And so he then changes his mind prior to sunset, agreeing to marry Rachel. And then she is the one who actually walks away from him. And she says, no, 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 we're still not getting married. Screw your family, right?
Yeah.
So technically, she's the one who's walked away. And as foretold, because of that, Nicky's whole family becomes infected. We see everybody die in his bloodline. And because they're not married yet, they're safe. But then in that desperation, the second that Nicky tricks Rachel into the ceremony, she instantly dies because, yeah, and she would have if she had gotten married earlier
Right.
because they're not soulmates. But since Nicky is now also infected, he should also die.
I was waiting for that, yeah, but instead he's just clutching the teddy bear at the very
The
end.
only explanation is if he is also now a witness because of that temporary walk away that he did, which would make little sense given that he walked away at the time that uh what's it called? That he wasn't cursed, right?
Right.
It's like so that shouldn't matter.
But,
But
like,
if they're both witnesses now,
did they say that there could be multiple witnesses? I might have
no,
missed
but
that.
I'm trying to interpret the rules as to just how it could be possible because we saw Portia die. We
Right.
saw Jules survive because he's actually a soulmate. The only other explanation they tried to give was that Nicky says, "You're still my soulmate," but you can't have a one-way soulmate. That makes no sense. Yeah, so it's kind of a paradox. Part of what's also a paradox is that once Rachel dies, you can't die if you're immortal, so she
Yeah.
instantly comes back to life. So because the witness is immortal.
Right, and she's going to be able to forever be, what, 30? Maybe around there.
28, I think, right? Is
Yeah.
the actress's age? Yeah. And then the dad, it was funny because he didn't die either. But if he technically wasn't Nicky's father and Nicky's the one who got cursed, then he's not actually in his lineage.
Yeah.
So that's why what leads me to believe that that's why Nicky was having such a freak out and why you can't brag on him completely. You can still say he was like a terrible boyfriend, but you can't say that he was ultimately like had no reason to be freaking out at the end of the time. His
What
mom was about to die. His dad's not his dad, and everybody he knows in his family is dying.
And the way that they shot it was a combination of VFX and also blood syringes and pumps. I thought that the way that the finale looked, I thought was great.
Okay, yeah, no, I still felt like by the end though that we had just watched a comedy. Portia is so intentionally manic and self-absorbed that you're meant to like her death. Rachel tells the same story to everybody during her wedding
Yeah.
ceremony, which is just crazy. The ritual at the end of episode 3 that was never then returned
Mhm.
to. She'd rather cut off her pinky toe than her tooth. The fox returning at the very end where she's
Yeah, the
driving off.
three-legged fox, yeah.
Yes, and it's limping away like it escaped as well. That was so dumb. But the stuff that didn't matter that also looking back was funny was do you remember in episode 1 she's like it's my box time or something. And then
Yeah,
she goes in the box and
right,
we're
she
just
closed
never
it, yeah.
told. I think she's just has like anxiety issues and so she just has to go into a box and that's what we're led to believe. The fact that the baby that was missing in the first episode also never got returned
Right.
to. It was just the parents came back for it. I mean, that feels like a
It felt
scary
it
movie
it
moment.
felt like a MacGuffin where it was like, we're going to learn what really happened a couple episodes later, but yeah, no, the parents really did just return.
Right, no, that feels more like it was meant to be in a scary movie where, where, like, everybody's expecting it to be Rosemary's Baby or The
Mhm.
Omen, and then it turns out to just be a normal baby. Why the dad decided to kidnap the daughter rather than just knock on the door, or that note that he sent the day beforehand where it was like, "I RSVP'd," and it said, "Don't marry him," in, like, blood.
Yeah, at the end of the first episode.
The heavy hinting that the great-grandma was going to take over her
You
body,
could
and then it
also
never
mention
did.
the intros that, like,
Yes,
they
like
seem to really
Invincible.
love the rock song in the background. It reminded me so much of how Cabin in the Woods did their intro, where it was like they would come up with a name, but they would just be so, like, intrusive, that song that they would use.
Victoria's character at the end of episode 1 made such a statement where she was like, "We're not it's sad that I won't be able to see you." every episode they had a scene together, you know? So
They
what did
had
that
to
even
they
mean?
had to use Jennifer Jason Leigh, like, as much as they could. She was the biggest name for this show, so
But they could have, like, in post, just gotten rid of her saying something like that and instead had her ADR something like, "I'll be happy to see you for the
Could
rest of the
you
week."
could you make them, like, maybe that wasn't her? Maybe they like, that was supposed to be a different type of ghost. I don't know, I'm trying to
Maybe,
give the
but the fact
show
that it then didn't come into play at all is also funny. Just like when Portia got, uh, consumed by another spirit and didn't care. She was just like, you ruined my nose," you know, that type of
Yeah.
thing. The Jude n not showing anybody the footage was also hilarious if you think about it. It's like he finally found the sorry man, and then he just decided, "I'm gonna go to sleep."
Yeah, there's a full 'nother man there.
There's a creepy dude, yeah.
Yeah,
And then the witness creeping on her in the toilet. That's never explained. He told her, "Oh, I'm here because I need to witness your marriage."
right.
But why is he creeping on her in the toilet? Why did he need to do that in the first episode?
I think that, again, this was all supposed to be like a
He's 200 years old. He would have had a chance at this point to see a lot of naked women.
I think
There's
it was supposed to add to the mystery.
Yeah, but again, for what purpose? Okay, and then, yeah, how many dogs do they actually have? Because you see, Boris skinning a dog, or at least one dog, in his office chamber or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You also see him burying a grave or digging a grave, and then you see this other dog that's walking around the whole time. You see a dog in the portrait. It's like I never really understand if that dog's alive. Is that like Santa's little helper where, you know, sometimes some episodes it's dead
Homer?
and some episodes it's not? Yeah, from The Simpsons. So overall, what would you give the series?
I think I would probably give the series a 6 out of 10, but again, I didn't watch it, I think, as closely as you did.
Yeah, it likes to flirt with horror and then it'd be like, nah, we're not doing that. So it's a fun foray. It turns cheesy and downright stupid at certain points. It's not the next Haunting of Hill House. And it is funny that they threw in a pretentious one shot episode or, you know, like kind of pretending to be a one shot
I.e. the
episode.
bear or, like, Mr. Robot, yeah.
So I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe even a 7 if I'm looking at like a certain part of it. But yeah, it's okay.
It's gotten good reviews. It has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. Notably, it has a 64% audience score, 6.8 on IMDb, but The Guardian gave it a 4 out of 5. AV Club awarded it a B. Telegraph gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and those have kind of been, like 80%. So, yeah.
Yeah, again, it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and most horror series don't.
Right.
You know, most of them leave out a huge wedge, and you're left just curious about too much. And this, the only real question is, why is Nicky still alive? And they didn't really leave you with too much of a cliffhanger either.
No, but
So they're not like teasing the next season. So good for them for that. 6.5 or 7 out of 10, however you'd like to rate it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
bye.